unified is definitely a good thing. I mean, they don't have a lot of divisions, but against the French, I think it can be argued that every little bit helps. How are things with Austria? The same as they ever were? Sweden petitions to join the Reichspakt. Well, well, maybe having Norway becoming communist will have inadvertently helped us, because the Swedish would like to join us. And I'm not about to say no. With heavy concerns, Sweden has been watching as their Norwegian neighbors collapsed to syndicalism and started openly affiliating with the regimes in Paris and London. While the Swedish government values Sweden's tradition of neutrality, this was too great a threat to ignore, and now they petitioned to stand with us as a combined vanguard against the Red Menace, and with their steel reserves at our disposal. Oh, they would definitely not be a burden. Our alliance is growing, and the same can't really be said for the communists. They've managed to gain Norway, and that is it, whereas we get Poland and Sweden. Welcome to the fight, Swedish brethren. With a long history of economic ties to Berlin and rising radicalism in the region, Sweden has formally joined the Reichspakt. That is just excellent. Now, let's show off the factions map mode. Yes, just look at how big our bloody alliance is. The Reichspakt name on the map is just so fucking massive. I mean, sure, the communists have a good chunk of Western Europe, but I think we have the better parts. It can indeed be argued. We have the better bits. That is for sure. Our parts are objectively better than theirs. Improved Panzerschiff hull model. Research is done. That's one of the battleship parts. So next, what do we want to research? All of these are pretty ahead of time, though not by a whole lot. I am going to research the 1924 basic snorkel for our submarines. And we're going to spend some of our naval experience to be able to do that faster. Note to self, though, start looking into doing some redesigns of your ships, because they really need it. Korea asks for aid. The Korean government in exile has asked us for military and political aid against Japan. It might be wise to send them aid to keep the Japanese off balance. It could mean that Japan comes for us sooner rather than later. What should we do here? We could say a great place to drop leftover equipment. We give them a little bit of aid, 2.5k units of that equipment. Full support and aid shall be given. You give them 3k of that same thing, plus 5,000 manpower, or we're not interested. We essentially tell them to fuck off. And, well, we're not interested, quite frankly. If Korea rises up against the Japanese, there's basically no way they can win that. And I don't want to result in Japan deciding that they should start a war against our Far Eastern colonies when we don't have the forces out there to really defend against a major offensive. So we're going to try to appease the Japanese. I know appeasement didn't work very well historically, but under the circumstances, it just seems like the better approach to take, honestly. We'll see if it actually ends up being the better approach to take, though. Food from Mittleafrika. Thanks to the initiative of the new colonial administration, Mittleafrika is now producing grains and canned food in significant quantities, enough so that it relieves some of the pressure on our domestic industry. Without the new colonial administration, this kind of benefit would be impossible. Never another Schweinemord. I have no idea what that even means. But we get some more support equipment from Mittleafrika added to our stockpile. White Ruthenia is also asking us for increased self-governance. That's White Ruthenia right there, by the way, in case you'd forgotten. They're not exactly a very major nation, so you could be forgiven for forgetting who they are. A communique from the government of the Ruthenian king Waldemar I von Hohenzollern has requested more autonomy in their economic policy. They justified this both by claiming it will ease the burden on their still growing economy and the recovering German one, and that it will make their own shaky government appear more legitimate. So we have two choices. Dire times afford sacrifices. They become a puppet, or in no way, shape, or form shall such a thing occur. Let's see, they become a puppet, so this would alter their status how? They're currently a puppet. What exactly would be changing? I don't understand. They're already a puppet. But this just seems like a little bit too much to me. If we start giving the way the Kaiser would look at it, if we start giving them more autonomy and self-governance and such, then they'll start asking for more and more. Soon enough, they might, God forbid, ask us to grant them independence and become not a puppet, but a mere ally of Germany, and we can't have that. It's a slippery slope. In no way, shape, or form shall such a thing occur. Besides, it doesn't hit their opinion that much. And besides, it doesn't even reduce it enough to go below plus 200, so it's obvious the people don't actually care about these so-called increased liberties, and that's just a way for the king to try and get more power for himself. Hans von Siecht's funeral. Our Chief of General Staff, Hans von Siecht, has died today in Berlin. The hero of the intervention in China passed away peacefully in his sleep. Our nation is mourning the loss of a true German hero, and all important dignitaries were in attendance at his funeral in Berlin. Afterwards, the Chief of the Army, August von Mackensen, could be seen whispering something to the Kaiser in private. It was revealed shortly thereafter that von Mackensen himself intends to retire. Farewell to you both. We can now reform the military high command, and we lose von Siecht and August von Mackensen. And really, von Mackensen has to be the most grievous loss of all, because how are we going to survive without his epically glorious skull cap of badassery? How are we going to survive without such a thing? I don't know. It is definitely going to be a struggle. And now we are into 1937. At long bloody last. It's 1937. Excellent. The Kingdom of Finland wishes to purchase light cruisers. It seems as though, in an effort to strengthen their navy, the Finnish have come to us in order to purchase 2 Königsberg-class light cruisers, namely the SMS Stettin and the SMS Stuttgart. While it is very much true that the light cruisers themselves belong to an older class, it is also true that they served us well during the Weltkrieg. Now, the money received from the Finns is rather tempting in exchange for 2 outdated ships. What say we? We could say we shall sell them, the ships are outdated anyways, or the costs outweigh the benefits, we cannot sell the ships. Well, these are a bunch of outdated ships that are probably not getting any use, and they're very old anyways, so I think we're going to sell them. They're outdated anyways. So go on, Finns, have your cruisers. It's not like we're really using them for anything. Our national focus over there is done. So we will immediately go for Sturzflieger in order to get us the ability to research fighters faster. One concept that has recently found a lot of supporters among aviation researchers is that of an aircraft that dives from great heights onto the battlefield to deliver its payload, using its momentum to climb again immediately afterwards. This concept, dubbed Sturzflieger, would minimize the time our precious aircraft would be in immediate danger. And we get 2 100% research bonuses for fighter models. I'm gonna go for that. Of course, after this, probably move away from the air focus tree for a while for other more interesting things. And Mittleafrika has decided to send us some guns. Rather nice of them. Our new colonial administration in Africa has seen gains in light industrialization, using cheap and even forced labor for industrial production. This has significantly reduced the cost of manufacturing and provided us with additional equipment. You can never have enough guns. 500 units of that gun has been added to our national stockpile. And if they're using forced labor, that's fine as long as it's only the filthy natives and not proper Germans being put in forced labor, right? Because everyone knows the natives don't actually matter. They exist only to be exploited by their betters. Clearly, that's the truth. Haha. Now, Argentinian trade delegation. As one of our largest import partners, the struggling Republic of Argentina has reached out to our trade ministry, begging us to make an exception on the increased tariffs we imposed on non-Middle European nations. Since their economy is virtually entirely dependent on us, we could put the squeeze on them and try to force them into signing a less favorable agreement. Should they, however, take this opportunity to shift their interests to the Entente, it would cut us off from their vital agricultural exports, which could give our rivals in the Entente an advantage in the Americas. I think that we need their loyalty. We will agree to their terms and gain the national spirit Argentinian trade agreement. Consumer goods factories minus 3%. 3%'s not all that much. I think we can get away with this. And we are finally now, and in fact this happened a while ago, but we're finally into positive political power. And our stability is up to a grand total of 2%. Yes, wonderful, isn't it? A whole 2% stability. How glorious. But once this finishes up, I think that we are going to want think we're going to want to start moving down this road some more. Get this radio what's it? Hold on a second. As I was saying, get that. And our production output increases. Just generally improve relations with Poland. Just because we can. And finish the reforms to help fully address the Black Monday problems and work on reforming Middle Europe, I think. But for now, we've lost the Brest-Litovsk reparations effect, which basically what that was, just to remind you, is we forced Russia to pay back some of the money they owed us from the Welt Creek early, and so we got some rather significant bonuses to our industrial output for a while. That's what was going on there. Reviewing the 1934 naval program. With the naval program of 1934 well underway, it is incumbent on us to choose how we wish to continue. After all, priorities in the shifting sands of modern naval warfare seldom stay the same for long. What should we do? And we're finished with all of our production of carriers. I think we want some more destroyers, because we are definitely going to need escorts for our larger capital ships. And that is the basic purpose that destroyers fulfill, as escorts for your capital ships. At least it was the last time I took any significant look into naval warfare. It may have changed. I'm not entirely certain. Surprisingly, the American Civil War hasn't kicked off yet, and neither has the Spanish one. I mean, I know the Spanish Civil War is basically incumbent on the King of Spain getting sick and dying, but I thought the American Civil War was guaranteed to happen all the time, and I'm used to the American War triggering in 1936 or 1937. It's not triggered in 36, so it probably will sometime before the end of the year. We'll see, I guess. That national focus is done. So now, let's start working on this. The next thing we're going to go for is the Investitions program. I think I'm saying that right. It's quite a long one at 105 days. This will give us some rather handy bonuses. Reduce our required consumer goods factory usage by 5%. Give us 15% more stability. And we really need to bring up our stability to at least 50% if we can, in order to more significantly stabilize our nation. It'll also increase our production efficiency cap, and production efficiency growth, factory output, and resources to market by those numbers there. Next part of the shot plan would be a massive program aiming to encourage private investment, both into Mittelstand businesses as well as consumer products. While this will be hard to achieve, it should enable producers to find a market for their products again, which will hopefully help to restart the economy. It's going to take 100 days, but I would say for the bonuses that we get off of doing that, it is very much worth it. Very much worth it. None of those decisions are things I actually want to do right now. I would like to guarantee the independence of the Ottoman Empire, just because I think having them on our side would be really nice, but we can't do that. Speaking of which, I wonder if there is any sort of event or anything for getting the Austrians into our alliance. That would be a very nice one to be able to pull off, the Austrians or the Netherlands being our allies. Because if we could get the Netherlands on our side, that would effectively mean the only enemies we're going to have in our west is France and the rest of the commies. And it would also give us greater access to their oil supplies over in the Dutch East Indies. Not that we're really overly hurting for oil at the moment, but it's something to consider. Also, more food and more guns from over in Mittleafrika. Thanks to the initiative of the new colonial administration, Mittleafrika is now producing grains and canned food in significant quantities, enough so that it relieves some of the pressure on our domestic industry. Without the new colonial administration, this kind of benefit would be impossible. Never another Schwindemord. And when we get those specific events again in the future, I'm probably not going to read them, just because they've turned up before and there's no real reason to be reading those particular ones again, quite honestly. Speaking of, how's our production looking? We still need quite a lot of guns for reinforcing our infantry. Hopefully that gets done before the time when the war starts. Otherwise, we'll have a half-baked, only sort of reinforced army to face the French with. The Kingdom of Finland has requested naval blueprints. It seems as though, in an effort to strengthen their navy, the Finnish have come to us in order to acquire advanced naval designs. While it is very much true that the Finnish, that should be, not the Germans, are our allies, and we would benefit from providing them with naval plans, it's also true that the plans could potentially fall into the hands of our enemies. Though the money received from the Finns is rather tempting in exchange for our naval designs, what say we? I am going to actually provide the Finns with the designs. It might not be the best idea, but this may potentially allow us to entice the Finns into joining our alliance, and having yet another ally would be very useful. It really would. Standoff in America. President Alf Landon experienced a major blow today, as a large number of governors declared his government illegitimate, throwing their support behind either Southern populist Huey Long or the Union, but declared that the federal government holds no authority within their state borders until Landon steps down and a reconciliation council under their chosen leader is put into place to restore order in the nation. In response, President Landon has given the governors 30 days to stand down, making it all but certain that the United States will descend into civil war for the second time in less than a century. Yeah. There's our Civil War. It didn't take them until the end of 1937 to go civil war. So what we want to do is send some volunteers. But they're not at war yet, apparently, so they've effectively seceded, but until the actual war breaks out, we can't send volunteers. Once that does happen, though, I am sending all the volunteers that can be volunteered. The CSA just shrank. Some of their territories must have decided that they'd rather not be invadified. Research into radios is done. So let's get Concentrated Industries level 2. Get some more output coming from our factories, I think. Would help us out a good deal here. And Serbia has crowned themselves a king. Serbia crowns King Alexander II. Since the end of the Austrian occupation during the 1920s, Serbia has officially been a kingdom. They never dared to crown a king, as they were forced to keep a low profile in the light of further Austrian aggression. Peter Bojojević, the regent of Serbia for almost 2 decades and a known royalist, has now decided to restore the monarchy. Alexander II, the son of former King Peter I, has accepted the crown and was today crowned as King of Serbia. This controversial move is likely to upset the Austrian and Bulgarian governments. Regent or king, what's the difference? It don't matter at all. Well, it doesn't matter until someone decides to invade Serbia because they don't like them having a monarch. And it looks like Sweden is having some border maneuvers with the Norwegians. No doubt they would love to invade and occupy their communist nation. Their communist neighbor, rather, but don't want to start anything with the Frenchies. Elections of 1937. Today, the German people will elect their representative to the Reichstag. The elections have been tightly fought, and the results are awaited with much anticipation. The fate of several parties, and of course the Kaiserreich itself, could be decided today. If the Social Democrats manage to secure enough votes, the realist wing of the Social Liberal FVP will form a coalition with them. Another possibility would be a coalition of nearly all liberal and bourgeois parties. NLP, FVP, and Bavarian Splinter Party, BVP, against the predominance of the DKP, led by the beloved Lion of Africa, Paul von Letto-Vorbeck, or the DKP could just continue with their comfortable majority. Who shall win? Change? What is this change you speak of? We need none of this nonsense. The DKP is going to continue on. Of course they are. And I did just choose that because I wanted my ruling party to be more popular, essentially. Under the Constitution of 1871, there is no formal government in the Kaiserreich. Instead, the Kaiser appoints a person of his liking to the post of Reichschancellor, then fills the state secretary posts of the Reichsleitung, the Reich administration. Even though the DKP defended their Reichstag majority in the elections, this does not mean the Kaiser has to keep Franz von Papen. What shall we do? Let's see. We could let von Papen keep his position, appoint Heinrich Brüning, or do something controversial that will lose us a load of political power. I say it's between those two. I'm going to appoint Brüning, just for the hell of it. Appoint Heinrich Brüning. It's time for fresh air, which will give us some changes to a bunch of positions, daily political power gain plus 0.07, resource gain efficiency plus 14%, political power gain plus 0.02, construction speed plus 4%, political power gain plus 0.04, and construction speed plus 2%. Yeah, go for that. How are things looking over in America? Still no actual civil war between the parties. Boring. Start killing each other already. This is me saying that, by the way, not the Kaiser. I very much doubt he wants the Cold War in the Americas to degenerate into an actual civil war. Quite frankly, he would probably not appreciate that over much. And now that I have the political power, I could... No, actually, I can't guarantee the independence of the Ottoman Empire because... That's right. That was a function of Kaiserreich that they added in, where you can only guarantee nations that are of the same ruling party type as you. Our ruling party are authoritarian Democrats, so we can only guarantee other authoritarian Democrat nations. The Ottoman Empire, on the other hand, their leading party ideology is paternal autocrat, so we can't guarantee them. We could guarantee Bulgaria. But not the Ottomans and not Russia. And we could also guarantee Iran if we wanted to. Or I could simply make some changes to my government, but that would take ages and would probably piss off more than a few people, quite honestly. Okay. Okay, sorry about that, but I'm back now. So let's carry on. And we are very slowly building up to having the equipment we need to start training forces here. And in April we'll have 2 more bits of our infrastructure done. Not too long left on that. And the American Civil War has finally kicked off. And it is most definitely a 3-way civil war. Second American Civil War. To those not in the know, it might seem like the crisis in the United States came out of nowhere. But experts agree that this was a civil war years in the making. Since the collapse of the New York Stock Exchange in 1925, the economy of the United States has been sluggish and mired in deep recession. Now the United States has collapsed into an all-out civil war between the supporters of the federal government, the combined syndicates of America, and the right-wing American Union State. Volunteers are pouring in from around the world to support one faction or another, with some characterizing the bitter ideological conflict as simply part of a wider global clash of ideals. The destiny of America is at stake.